Brad, how upset would you be if I wanted to see someone else? Vicky asked suddenly. Brad was taken aback. Was this a serious talk? Are we talking for real or just imagining it? Brad asked carefully. They had been sitting on their back deck holding hands and watching the sunset. It had been a calm evening, just like many others. But now, this question out of nowhere? Let's say it's for real, not just a thought, Vicky said, still staring at the sunset with no emotion in her voice. Brad's heart sank. This wasn't a joke. After being together for 20 years, he knew his wife didn't ask such things lightly. What was happening? He cleared his throat and spoke slowly. If you mean it for real, do you really need an answer after all these years? He asked, his voice tight. She was quiet for a moment, thinking. Yes, I need to hear it from you, she finally said. Brad sighed deeply. This was shocking to him. He never expected to have this kind of talk with his wife. Are you saying you found someone else? Is that why you're asking this? Brad probed. Vicky turned to look at him, her voice serious now. It's not like that, Brad. Not at all. But asking me means you're thinking about it. You don't play games, so it sounds like you're unhappy with me. Have you already found someone? Vicky frowned, clearly troubled. No. I just needed to ask. It's a simple question, Brad. This was far from simple for Brad. He felt his world shaking. It's much more than a simple question. Let's not make excuses here. You can't love me and want to be with other people. You can't say you deserve something extra because we've been married a long time. I deserve your love, your respect, and your loyalty. You can't tell me it wouldn't hurt our marriage, because it would. You can't say it's just a small affair, because there's no such thing as a small affair. You'd be breaking your vows. You can't expect me to trust you ever again after that. You'd no longer be the person I fell in love with. You'd be a stranger to me. So, to answer your question, it would end our marriage. That's what I thought you'd say, Brad. Is it still cheating if I have your permission? Do you really need an answer to that, Vicky? I think I do, Brad. Brad shook his head. It's not my place to give you permission to cheat. You need to decide for yourself if you want to stay faithful or end this. I can't decide that for you. You don't love me enough to let me do this? Brad was incredulous. That's nonsense. Real love means standing up for our marriage, not letting it fall apart. Anything else would mean I don't care, and that's not true. Brad paused. Letting you do this would mean I don't care about us, our family, or our future together. It would mean you don't matter to me. That's not love. That's indifference. I don't agree with you, Brad. Isn't your view a bit old-fashioned? Old-fashioned or not, you have to decide what our marriage means to you. I shouldn't have to tell you that cheating would end it. So again, are you saying you found someone else? He wouldn't be a replacement, Brad. Yes, he would. To me, he would be. Some people might be okay with open relationships, but I'm not. I chose to marry you, build a life with you, and grow old with you, just you. If you bring someone else into this, it's over. I don't share, Vicky. Never have, never will. I haven't done anything yet, Brad. Yes, you have. Just by asking, you've shown you want something other than me. Brad looked at Vicky, trying to keep his cool. You mentioned someone else. How far have things gone with this person? Vicky sighed. I'm not sure it's such a big deal, Brad. I don't agree. You wouldn't have brought it up if you hadn't already made some plans. So tell me how far it's gone. Vicky looked uneasy. Well, all right. There's someone I've thought about having a short affair with. Do I know this person? She paused, then nodded. Brad frowned. So you're willing to embarrass me? Stop, Brad. I would never do that to you. That's just your pride talking. Of course it's my pride. Losing our pride can make us feel worthless. How can someone say they love another person but still go ahead and destroy their self-worth with their actions? Vicky didn't say anything. Tell me how far it has gone, Vicky, Brad asked, letting go of her hand. She looked down at his hand, which had moved away from hers. Vicky, it's clear you've thought a lot about this, even if your thoughts are a bit muddled. You know how I'm going to react. You've probably spent most of your time justifying what you've done, so just tell me, how far have you taken things with him? She looked into Brad's eyes, seeing sadness but not anger. Why aren't you mad, Brad? Or jealous? Have you already decided you won't fight for me? Brad's face changed. Fight for you? We're not in school, Vicky. Why would I fight for someone who doesn't want to be with me? You should be fighting for me, not the other way around. I haven't done anything wrong. How far have you taken it with him? Vicky looked away, sighing. Not very far, Brad. Over the past 4 months, we've flirted a lot. We've had lunch together many times. I've gotten close to him and shared personal things. Personal things? About us? Yes, Brad. It wasn't intentional at first, but it happened. I trust him. I like him, and I'm very attracted to him. Brad took a deep breath. Okay. And physically? How far? Well, not too far, but more than I should have. We haven't slept together, but we've talked about it. We've made plans. Brad's voice was flat. Plans? Yes, Brad. Plans to take things further. At least you didn't say you needed it to happen. Is he married? I'm not going to tell you that, Brad, or who he is. Brad shook his head. So now I have to wonder who it is. You don't think that's embarrassing for me? I'll look at every man I know and question if he's the one. You clearly don't respect me or our marriage. I don't see it that way, Brad. I think you are. Overreacting? Forget that. Whether you mean to or not, you've already put this guy above our relationship. I'm an afterthought. Our marriage is an afterthought. You're too smart not to realize what this means. It's not an affair, Brad. Yes, it is. You've admitted to flirting with him for months. But we haven't had sex. That's not the point. The emotional cheating hurts more. It breaks the love, respect, and trust in a relationship. Physical cheating is just the final blow. Have you thought about what this emotional affair could lead to? Come on, Brad. You're taking this too far. Maybe you think that. I don't. Well, I don't see any long-term harm in a short affair with him. Maybe some short-term problems, but not long-term. If that's what you think, then you've become selfish enough that I've lost respect for you. I don't believe that, Brad. Your belief doesn't matter now, so what's your plan? Formal dates, a weekend away, a vacation? What have you two been planning? Go ahead and say it now, Vicky. Vicky frowned and sighed again. 2 weeks in Aruba, starting next Saturday. We're leaving at 6 a.m. Aruba? Yes. So it's all set. No going back now? Seems so, yes. Vicky, how selfish can you be? What did I do to deserve this? Who are you? Calm down. It's not like that, Brad. He could barely control his anger. You're fooling yourself if you believe that. It's exactly like that. Your cheating is clear. 20 years wasted. For what? A cheap affair? It's not like that, Brad, or it doesn't have to be. It's just sex? Stupid, Vicky. So stupid. I can't believe you're saying this. What's next? Are you going to say I don't own you? That's all it is, Brad. Just more sex. Only to you, Vicky. Only to you. What will you tell the kids? How do you think they'll react when they find out their mother is throwing away her marriage? They already know. They know? How much do they know? Everything, including the trip to Aruba. They've known from the start. I've been honest with them. The start? He asked in a whisper. Months? Yes. So last month they knew? And said nothing? Don't blame them, Brad. I asked them not to. You asked them, and they didn't object? They did at first, but then thought it wasn't a big deal. It's a different world now, Brad. They are part of that. It's not a big deal. They aren't losing anything. They'll still have the same family in 3 weeks. Nothing will change that. Think about it for a bit. I am not leaving you, Brad. I'm just taking a little time for myself, with a friend. That's all it is. Just something new. It won't hurt you if you don't let it. You're crazy if you believe I'll ever accept this, Vicky. Brad stood up and took out his phone, making a call to his 2 kids. Both were in college. They picked up before the 3rd ring. Mark, Jennifer, Brad started, trying to stay calm. Your mother and I are talking about Aruba? Mark asked, not shocked. He knew his mom planned to tell his dad tonight. She had told him and his sister what to say. Yes, Brad said, his anger showing. I guess you both know your mother's plan. We do, Dad, Jennifer said calmly. She's told us everything since she came up with this idea months ago. Why didn't either one of you tell me? Don't you think I have the right to know that your mother is planning to break our marriage? Don't you care? Brad demanded. Dad, Mark said. Yeah, okay, it's not great, but this happens all the time, especially with long marriages. It's not the end of the world, Dad. Chill out. Chill out? Jennifer, do you agree with your brother? Mom made us promise to say nothing until she told you. It's not cool, but she really wants this. She's earned some freedom, hasn't she? Dad, I know you feel like we don't care, but that's not true. Brad ended the call and turned off his phone. Earned this? So our kids don't see anything wrong with betraying me either. They see no issue with you destroying our marriage and family. They have no respect or loyalty to me, smiling at me and declaring their love while stabbing me in the back. They have no problem with you humiliating me. Camelot? Really? In the legend, Guinevere cheated on Arthur and Camelot fell. What are our kids learning in school? How stupid can they be? Brad, calm down. You're blowing this out of proportion. Brad glared at his wife. Wife, I can't describe how disgusted I am with you. Being deceitful wasn't enough. You had to involve the kids too. Congratulations. You three have taken everything I valued. You've stripped me of everything I've cherished. Brad stood up and walked to the edge of the pool. Vicky's phone rang. It was Jennifer. She took the call, watching her husband. Not now, Jennifer. You and Mark, give it time. Yes, your father is very upset. No, more at you two than me at the moment. Give it time. This will be hard for him to accept. No, I am not changing my mind. Whatever. You and Mark need to give it time. Vicky hung up as Brad walked past her into the house. She thought about following him but decided to give him space. Brad ignored her, going to his home office. He locked the door behind him and got on the computer. It only took moments to log into their bank. Another shock hit him. Vicky had spent money from their joint account on the plane tickets and hotel stay in Aruba. The charge wasn't the full cost of the trip and stay, but easily half of it. She used their shared account to pay for it, not her personal one. She not only wanted to cheat on him, she wanted him to pay for it. Enraged, he paid off their joint credit cards, canceled them, and moved the rest of the money from their savings and checking accounts to his personal account. He also changed the username and password for his account. He would have to wait until Monday morning to go to the bank and empty the safety deposit box. Next, he logged into his investment account. He and Vicky each had their own. His hadn't been touched, so he changed the username and password. He then accessed the trust fund meant for their kids' education. Brad managed that trust and had full control over it. He took out all the money, sending $600,000 to his personal bank account. His kids were adults now. They could figure things out on their own, or their mom could help them. He didn't care anymore. He then got on the computer and started to access Vicky's email. He thought there might be something in her emails to show who she was cheating with. Then he paused. Did it even matter who the other guy was? He thought about that for several minutes and decided it didn't. Who she was with didn't matter. This was Vicky's choice. She was to blame. Then he had another thought. Brad Parker was no fool. His wife might have thought he was, but that was on a personal level. He'd been a fool for not seeing his marriage fall apart. Business was different. Business was tough and often dirty, and he had to play the game to win. Gifts, or bribes, sometimes had to be used. And keeping gifts secret from the IRS meant having offshore accounts. Brad had 4 offshore accounts, one he thought of as personal. He even had credit cards from that account. He kept those cards locked in his desk at work. He thought about it, then logged back into his bank, transferring all his personal account money to his offshore account and scheduling the transfer for the upcoming Tuesday at midnight. That would give time for the trust funds to clear. He sat back and thought again before finalizing. Brad opened another window and accessed the trust account, canceling the transfer to his bank. Instead, he moved it to the offshore account, scheduling it for midnight tonight. There would be a record of where the money went, but so what? No court in the U.S. could touch that account, nor could the IRS as long as he paid the proper taxes on the money. He already had, so they would have no problem with him. Back on his personal bank page, he changed the transfer date to midnight tonight and hit the submit button. Then he went to his investment account. He closed it, taking a loss, but moved the balance to the offshore account effective at midnight. So, he protected his funds, at least for now. He would end up with a good $10 million in that account after midnight. Now his business, the business was an LLC. Even though he was the true owner and CEO, he set the business up to pay him as an employee, with his parents listed as owners on any paperwork. Vicky might try in a divorce, but she couldn't legally touch the business. Only his parents owned it, and they wouldn't side with Vicky. The business should be safe until his folks managed to sell it off. Brad heard a tap at the door, Vicky softly asking if he was okay. He ignored her. She tried the knob and found the door locked, giving up after a few futile minutes. He heard her walk off to return to the rear deck. She evidently thought he was going to rejoin her out there. Brad picked up his phone and called his father. "Dad? No. I'm intentionally keeping my voice down. Can you hear me? Good. Is the old house empty? Yes. I need it. I'm leaving Vicky. No. She's cheating on me and has been for several months. Mark and Jennifer know all about it too. No, they didn't tell me until I called them less than an hour ago. I don't know why, Dad. I need to use the house for a while. I don't know how long. Is that okay? I'll pay the rent. No, I'm not insulting you. Are the utilities still on? Good, okay. No, I have a key to the house. Yes, no, I'm not telling Vicky I'm going there. I need to be away from her for a while. No, I'm not telling the kids where I will be either. They support their mother. They told me they were and have been. Yes, Dad, my kids. I don't want anything to do with them right now either. Yes, okay. Give me a couple of hours and I'll meet you there. Sure, bring some food. Okay, see you soon. Brad hung up and then turned to the filing cabinets, pulling several folders from the drawers. He separated out his past 3 years' tax returns, his vehicle's title, his military discharge papers, the deed for the house, and his passport. He picked up his briefcase and placed his car title and discharge papers inside the briefcase, then made copies of everything else to take with him. The originals went back into the file cabinet. He also took folders for his business and placed those in his briefcase. He couldn't think of anything else to add at the moment, so he turned back to the desktop computer. It took a moment, but he decided to take things further. The phone contract was in his name, so all 4 cell phones were on the account. He went in and canceled Vicky's and the kids' phones, effective at midnight. Both kids had their own cars, which he had been paying for, but after tonight, he wouldn't make any more payments. His wife could handle that now. He then looked at his insurance accounts. He canceled the vehicle insurance for Vicky, Mark, and Jennifer. Vicky could get her own insurance and cover the kids if she wanted. He also removed Vicky as his beneficiary and changed it to his parents. He found a thumb drive in his desk drawer and copied all the files he needed from the computer onto it. He put the drive into his briefcase. Once he was sure he had everything he wanted, he set the computer to erase all the files and reinstall a basic version of Windows. If Vicky wanted the current version back, she'd need to hire someone to do it. Some of the later installed programs would be lost. Vicky hated using a laptop, so hers was always at work. She would have to get it from her office or wait until Monday to use a computer. His own laptop was there, so he shut it down and took the power cord. Before doing anything else, he made another phone call, giving very clear instructions. Brad then closed his briefcase, locked it, picked up his laptop and power cord, and left the office. He did not look for Vicky and instead grabbed the spare key for his car from the hook by the garage door. That went into his pocket after he opened the garage door and unlocked his Mercedes sedan. Brad tossed his briefcase and laptop into the trunk, then relocked the car. Brad got 2 large suitcases from the garage and carried them to the master bedroom. He spent an hour packing them and taking several suits to put into garment bags he found in the closet. During all that time, Vicky never came looking for him. He guessed she was still on the deck, but he didn't care anymore. He took his wallet and keys, plus his tablet and the charger cables for that and his phone, and left the bedroom. Brad rolled the suitcases to the garage and put them into the trunk of the car, hanging the garment bags on the hook behind the driver's seat. He scratched his head, thinking he might be forgetting something, and then it came to him. There was one thing he couldn't leave behind. His mom and dad had given him a bottle of 100-year-old scotch for his birthday a few months ago. He hadn't opened it, but he wasn't going to leave it behind. Brad went back into the house, found the bottle, and took 3 crystal glasses from the liquor cabinet. Then he thought, why not? He went back to the garage and found some boxes for carrying bottles. He and Vicky had a nice collection of wines, so he decided to take those too. He also took 3 crystal wine glasses. Brad packed the boxes carefully, then took them to his car and put them on the back seat. He didn't even bother closing the house door to the garage. Brad got into his car, opened the garage door, and drove out, leaving the door open behind him. He had not seen Vicky at all. Meanwhile, Vicky was still waiting on the deck for him to come back. She didn't think he would stay away for long. He just needed time to cool down before they could talk again. She and Brad had never avoided a fight, and that's all this was. Just another fight, like any other they had during their marriage. No fight before had ever harmed their marriage. Brad had never been angry with her for more than a few hours. Brad had every right to be upset with what she told him. Of course he did. It was only natural, and something they could handle. She wouldn't blame him for feeling like this. If it had been done to her, she would feel crushed, totally destroyed. But Brad was stronger emotionally. He had always been the strong one in her life. But still, there was no good way to tell him. And she didn't think she had said it as badly as she could have. At least she told him ahead of time. It would have been much worse if he found out later. He had 6 days to think about it. 6 days to calm down and see their marriage was still strong. Brad knew. Of course, he knew how much she loved him. There was no better man on earth in her eyes. He knew she felt that way about him. Even though they had both believed in being faithful all their marriage, she wasn't kidding when she said things had changed. People's thoughts changed over time. That didn't mean feelings changed. Those stayed the same. She loved Brad and always would. This little adventure she wanted was just a small thing. It didn't really matter in the big picture. The kids, well, that was definitely mean of her. That was something he might not get over easily. She was just his wife, but they were his blood. And he had always been there for them, loving them, supporting them, being everything they needed. He never complained about what they needed from him. Yes, that was a mean and sneaky move on her part. Brad might never forgive her for using the kids against him like this. But it was still something they could deal with. The kids were important to her plan. Actually, they were the key to getting Brad to do what she wanted. Even if he stayed away from all of them for the next 6 days, it would be 6 days of deep loneliness for him. Brad would soon realize how bad his life would be without his family. Brad loved being around people, especially his family. They were the most important to him. Sure, he would be angry and sad for about 6 days, but then he would talk to the kids. They would make sure he stayed home. It would be tough for Brad, but he could handle it. Vicky knew what he was doing in the office. He was making sure his money was safe. Brad was smart and careful. He was probably also planning to stay at a hotel for a few days. Vicky expected this. She would miss him, but it was necessary. Brad needed to know what it was like to be alone. He loved his family too much to stay away for long. He needed them as much as they needed him. Vicky was sure Brad would think about divorce. He would consider it. He would even threaten it. He might even separate from her legally. But a divorce? Vicky didn't think he would go that far. He couldn't bring himself to do it, especially over something as small as a short affair. Vicky wasn't sure why she believed this, but she did. She would have her brief affair and then accept whatever punishment Brad gave her when she came back. That was her plan. A short affair, and then maybe a week or 2 of Brad being cold and distant. He might not talk to her or be close to her. 2 weeks at most, totally expected and manageable. He had asked her if she had thought about the long-term effects. She had. She had worried about it for months before approaching her chosen lover, thinking about how Brad might react. Brad was a proud and stubborn man. He would be stubborn about this, but it wouldn't last. It never did in 20 years. Things would be different between them afterward. But that might not be a bad thing. His trust in her was broken, but trust could be rebuilt over time. She had a plan for him to spend 2 weeks with her sister Sarah. Brad liked Sarah, and honestly, Sarah was prettier than Vicky. Sarah had agreed to spend 2 weeks with Brad to help ease his sense of betrayal. This would help Brad feel better, or at least close to balanced. Brad would appreciate the offer, even if he declined it, and see it as Vicky's way of making things right again. Manageable. Vicky thought about why she wanted to do this. It wasn't because she had to do it, and she definitely wasn't in love with her chosen lover. Sure, he was good-looking and smart. He had a great personality and sense of humor. She trusted him. He had a certain charm and would be fun to be with. It wasn't about anything physical at all, so then why? It wasn't boredom, never that. It wasn't about being unhappy with her life or her love life. Brad never left her unhappy in that department. She wasn't trying to fill an emotional gap. Her life with Brad had been better than she dreamed. So why? Vicky sighed. The truth was she didn't have a good reason. Nothing worth explaining, at least. It came down to seeing if she could do it and making Brad accept it. A challenge. Stupid, reckless, unkind. Could she lose her marriage? Maybe. It was possible. Was it worth the risk? No. But she was taking the risk anyway. Why? She couldn't say, and that worried her. But not enough to stop. Vicky would have felt better if she knew why she was doing this. She didn't, but she was set on going through with it. Brad would be hurt. But Sarah would help heal the worst of that hurt. She might even be better for him than Vicky. Another risk. Why did risk excite her so much? Vicky didn't understand that. She would spend 2 weeks with her lover and then return to Brad. She would never stay with her lover or any man other than Brad. At least she didn't have to worry about getting sick. Both she and her lover had tested negative for diseases. She couldn't get pregnant either. They were being careful. Well, maybe a little bit reckless. Vicky sighed again, wondering where Brad was. He should be out by now. She decided to find him. Seeing the office door open wasn't a surprise. Neither was seeing the garage door open. His car was gone. And she had expected that. The only question was for how long. A look in the bedroom showed that he had taken a lot of clothes. Passing through the family room showed that he had taken some liquor too, some wine, and that big bottle of scotch his parents had given him. So, he went somewhere planning to get drunk. That wasn't like him at all. Brad never turned to alcohol to escape his problems. I never thought he'd do something like that. Brad actually got to his parents' old house before they did. He had already moved everything into the right rooms before his parents arrived. The house was old, built in 1910, but it wasn't falling apart. His father, Aaron, had spent a lot of time and money fixing it up over the years. The garage, now connected to the house, used to be an open car park. His father enclosed it and connected it to the house with a breezeway. The house was big, with 2 stories and 2,500 square feet of living space. It was a warm, comfortable Victorian-style home in a fancy neighborhood. Even the fireplaces worked. His parents felt the house was too big for just the 2 of them, so they moved to a smaller place. But they kept the house and rented it out to select tenants. Brad had thought about buying the house from his parents many times, but Vicky, his wife, hated the idea. She found the house creepy and always called it the Halloween home. She couldn't stay in the house without feeling uncomfortable. Brad loved the house. He grew up there, so it was special to him. A knock at the door made him laugh, but it wasn't a happy laugh. About 10 minutes later, his parents walked in. "Brad, are you here? Brad? When did you get a pickup truck?" his father called out. Brad came out of the kitchen to hug his mother and shake his father's hand. "Did you buy a truck?" his father asked again. "No, Dad," Brad replied. "It's just for show. I had some of my security guys bring it over. It's one of my new work trucks. I think Vicky might come looking for me, and when she sees the truck, she'll think someone else is living here." "Ha! That's pretty clever," his mother said. "Now, what's all this about Vicky cheating on you?" They followed Brad into the kitchen and unloaded the food his parents had brought. "There's more in the car, son. We brought a coffee maker and some coffee for you, and some mugs, too. I don't know what's still in the house." "Well, go get it, Aaron. I want to hear what Brad has to say," his mother said. "I'll help him, Mom. I haven't told him everything, and I'd rather explain it all at once." Not much later, they were all sitting at the kitchen table with cups of fresh coffee. When Brad finished his story, his parents were shocked, their mouths open. Brad's parents had him when they were young, so they were now in their late 50s, but still healthy and full of life. "Brad, right now I want to call that wife of yours all sorts of bad names," his mother hissed. "I would too if your father didn't hate it when I swear." Aaron leaned back in his chair, raising an eyebrow at his wife. "Oh, get over it, Aaron. You know how you get when I swear." "Well, yes, I do get upset. But maybe it's okay this time," Aaron replied. Grace snorted. "It most certainly is," she said. "But I won't do it." "Well, thank you, Mom. Even if it's deserved, it doesn't help." And you say the kids knew all about it? She asked. They did, for 4 months. They confirmed it when I had them on the phone. They don't mind what she's doing. They think she deserves it. Grace almost spat. Kids today, what's wrong with them? Honey, maybe you should have been stricter with them when they were younger. Brad shook his head. Did you ever punish me like that? He asked his mother. Did you ever betray your father or me? She shot back. No. Well, there you go. It's awful what they've done. Okay, Grace, calm down, his father said. Let's see how we can help. Fine, but I still might punish them. I'll help you, Grace, but later. Okay? Brad, are you planning to stay here? Yes, if I can. The house is yours for as long as you want it, his mother offered. Forever if you want. Thanks, Mom. I don't think I'll be here that long, though. Maybe a week. I need to get away and clear my mind. I'm thinking of traveling overseas for a bit. Maybe a month or 2. I don't know. It's just an idea. Aruba? His mother asked, hopefully. Are you going to find them and confront the guy? No, Mom, not Aruba. Do you know who this man is? The one Vicky is seeing? No, I don't know who he is, and honestly, I don't care. Do you see yourself forgiving Vicky? Reuniting? No, Dad. She's been with him for 4 months, though she says they haven't been intimate yet. Do you believe her? I don't think it matters, Dad. This wasn't a mistake. Vicky planned it and wants to continue. Our vows are broken in my eyes. She was seeing him before and after our 20th anniversary, pretending we were perfectly married. Even my kids knew and pretended. Those kids, Grace hissed. So, divorce? Maybe. I have to do some things before seeing a lawyer, but I feel that divorcing here would leave me broke. I hate the idea of paying Vicky alimony after what she's done. I've already changed my finances and my life insurance policies. Mom and Dad, you're now my beneficiaries. I've also canceled the kids' college fund. Vicky can pay for their school, or they can work and pay themselves. I won't give them any more money. I sent all the money to one of our overseas accounts. Well, what is it? Oh, Brad, your dad and I saved some money for their graduation gifts. That's fine, Mom. It's your money. That's the thing, Brad. I don't want them to get anything from us anymore. They don't deserve it, his mom said angrily. That's up to you. They are your only grandkids, and they haven't hurt you. Not true, Brad. They hurt our son, his dad replied. Brad shrugged. It's still your call. Brad's phone buzzed on the table. He waited until it stopped. Then he picked it up and fiddled with it for a few minutes. Was that Vicky? No, Mark. I just blocked his number. I blocked Vicky's and Jennifer's too. I don't want to hear from them anymore. Did you get any messages from them? Yes, from the kids. Voicemails. I don't want to hear those either. Nothing from Vicky, though. Anyway, it doesn't matter. After midnight, none of them will have phone service. I took their phones off my plan. I'll get a new plan and number next week. What about the company, Brad? What are you going to do? You and Mom are the legal owners of the company. We don't know anything about your company, Brad. I know. I'm thinking of selling it. I've been considering early retirement. Maybe even travel around the world. That would have been a great adventure, his mother sighed. Yeah, not anymore, though. Did I tell you she used our joint account to pay for her trip to Aruba? She did? What the heck? Grace. Be quiet, Aaron. It's bad enough she's cheating on our son. She wants him to pay for it, too. Someone needs to talk to her. I agree. But the language, Grace? Get real, Aaron. I hate her right now. Give me a break. Okay, dear. I understand. Just no more swearing, okay? All right, honey. Just for you and Brad. Great. So about the company. Do you have a buyer in mind, Brad? Yes. Someone has shown interest for the past year. I'm thinking of meeting him. Is he local? No. He lives in Tokyo. Japan? Yes. I think a trip to Tokyo might be what I need right now. Oh, that's far away. I'm not moving there, Mom, just a visit. How long? I don't know. A few weeks, maybe. And after that? Brad shrugged. No idea. Not yet, at least. Well, I'm hungry, his dad said. After dinner, his parents helped him clean up and then left. Brad made sure the door was locked and turned off the outside light. Mark had tried calling his dad several times. He felt bad for not stopping his mom's plan. He felt worse for not telling his dad. But was it a big deal at their age? They'd been married for 20 years. Dad had to know Mom wasn't trying to hurt him. It was just something she wanted to try. It wasn't serious, so why should it matter? Mark called his sister. Hey, have you tried calling Dad? Yeah, he's not answering. I think he blocked us. Yeah? Well, Mom did say he wouldn't talk to us right away. That doesn't mean he shouldn't. We messed up, Mark. We should have told Dad right away. Does it really matter, Jen? Mom's going to do this. If we told Dad and he stopped her this time, would that stop her from trying again? I don't know, Mark. I just don't know. But we should have told Dad. Right now, he thinks we don't love or care about him. That's not true. No, it isn't. He must feel really bad right now. Have you talked to Mom? What's going on at the house? I called her. She said he left, taking a lot of clothes and alcohol with him. Alcohol? Dad? Yeah. That big bottle of old scotch Graham and Gramps gave him, and a lot of wine. She thinks he went to a hotel to get really drunk. Wow. I can't picture Dad getting drunk. I've never seen him drunk before. No, that's not like Dad at all. Do you think he'll come back before Mom leaves? No idea. Why would he? To maybe talk her out of going? Lock her in the house or something? Ha! I can't see Dad doing that. It would be funny, though. I really can't see him going back before next Saturday unless he needs more stuff. He'd probably wait for her to leave if he did. Mark, I can't. This is horrible. We're horrible. Dad must think we hate him or something. What if he does something to hurt himself? Like what? I don't know. He's all alone and drinking old scotch and wine. Who knows what will happen? If he drinks wine with that old scotch, he'll just end up throwing up. Don't be a jerk. You know what I mean. Hey, calm down. You're asking me stuff I don't have answers for. Relax, okay? Mark said. I'm going to call Graham and see if she's seen Dad, Jennifer replied. I wouldn't do that, Jen, Mark warned. Why not? She asked. Well, if Dad told her about us siding with Mom, Graham might be really mad at us, Mark said. She wouldn't do that, Jennifer protested. Ever seen Graham super angry? I have. No way I'm calling her, Mark stated. You're a chicken, Jennifer accused. Yep, better a chicken than dealing with Graham's wrath. I'm not risking it, Mark admitted. Whatever, Mark, I'm calling Graham, Jennifer shouted. Jennifer hung up on him. Mark thought calling Graham was a bad idea. 5 minutes later, Jennifer called back. Mark, Graham is really mad. She yelled at me so loud my ears hurt. Now what do we do? She asked. Stay away from Graham for a long time? Mark suggested. Be serious, Jennifer demanded. I don't know. Maybe call Mom? Mark offered. No, it's all her fault, Jennifer exclaimed. Yeah, but, Mark started. Where do you think Dad might be? Jennifer interrupted. No idea, Jen, Mark admitted. Maybe the old house? She wondered. Nope, it's rented for a few years. Maybe he's at a hotel or sleeping at his office? Mark guessed. Dad sleeping on a couch? Are you kidding? Jennifer snapped. Hey, I'm just trying to help, Mark said lightly. I'm serious and you're joking? She shot back. Yeah, jokes help me when I'm scared, Mark explained. You must be scared all the time then. Maybe we should go home. We need to fix things with Dad, Jennifer said. Mom says it's too soon, Mark reminded her. Mom doesn't know what to do. She shouldn't be cheating on Dad, Jennifer yelled. Yeah, she shouldn't, but she is. We can't stop her. What's going home going to change? Mark asked. I don't know, but I have to do something. Keeping this secret is killing me, Jennifer confessed. Do what you think you need to do. I think it's a waste of time, but that's your choice. I'm going to call Mom, Mark decided. Brad was sitting at the kitchen table with a glass of old scotch when his phone rang. He had been there for hours, drinking a lot, but not feeling any effect. His body burned alcohol too fast for him to get drunk. He thought about his life, meeting Vicky, their wedding, the birth of his kids, family vacations, building his business. It all seemed like a dream now turned into a nightmare. He looked at the caller ID. It was Vicky's sister, Sarah. What do you want, Sarah? Brad asked coldly. Brad, are you okay? Where are you? Vicky said you left, she began. Did you know what she was doing? Brad cut her off. Sarah hesitated. Why didn't you tell me? We've always been close, Brad said. She's my sister, Brad, Sarah said quietly. So you sided with her? Great, Brad said, his voice getting colder. It's not like that, Brad, Sarah tried to explain. Yes, it is. Do your parents know too? Brad asked. Yes, and they aren't happy about it, Sarah admitted. So everyone is against me, Brad concluded. You're being really selfish and mean for what you've done already. And now you're making it worse by going on this trip to Aruba. Get your head out of the sand before you break up our family. Jen is planning to come home tomorrow. Why would she do that? She wants to find Dad and apologize to him. I think she also wants to talk you out of this silly plan of yours. I'm tired of you speaking rudely to me, Mark. Too bad, Mom. Don't you think what you're doing is rude to all of us? Let's say disgraceful instead of disrespectful. I've heard enough from you, Mark. Maybe, but you better wake up fast. This won't end the way you hope it will. What does that mean? It means you don't have my support anymore. You don't have Jen's support either. Gram and Gramps also know what you're doing. Gram said she's going to handle all of us. Vicky snorted. I'll put her in jail if she tries. Mom, Gram doesn't care about jail. You're dreaming if you think she does. Listen, Mom, stop this nonsense and make up with Dad. Stay home, find him, and ask for his forgiveness. Do that or I'm done with you. What? You don't mean that? I sure do. I'm ashamed I didn't support Dad more. He deserves it. You don't. End this or say goodbye to me and probably Jen. I'm serious, Mom. End it. No. Mark hung up. Vicky tried calling him back, but he didn't answer. Before she could leave a message, her phone rang. It was her sister. Sarah, I'm a little busy now. Mark is acting up. I just talked with Brad, Vicky. It's bad. What? Why? What did he say? Oh, Vicky. He said he's done with all of us. Sarah, he's just mad. He is way beyond mad. Way beyond. His voice was cold and his words were harsh. You have no idea how serious he is about leaving all of us, even Mom and Dad. You need to stop what you're doing to him right now. Was he drunk? No, he sounded clear as day. Brad is furious, Vicky. More furious than we've ever seen. His voice scared me. Vicky rolled her eyes. Why is everyone being so dramatic? Bullshit, Vicky. I'm still shaking from what he told me. I don't understand why you're doing this, but if you don't stop, you'll lose him forever. We all will. Don't give me your condescending bullshit. Go on that trip or keep seeing Nathan and your marriage is over. It may already be over because you turned his kids against him. Why am I surrounded by children? Vicky mumbled. This is serious, Vicky. I'm trying to help you save your marriage and you call me a child? Fine, go on your trip, make things worse. Don't call me crying when he kicks you out. Goodbye. Sarah hung up. Vicky frowned, then made another call. Graham picked up, shouted, "Dirty cheater," and hung up. Vicky sighed. That wasn't who she meant to call. She was more careful with the next call. What do you want, dear? Have you told Brad everything? I have, Mom. I guess he didn't agree with your plan? No, Mom. He took it as I expected. He left the house with some clothes and his computer, and a lot of booze. Vicky, your father and I don't approve of what you're doing. It's disgraceful. Have you talked to Mark? What? No. Why? Has he changed his mind? Apparently. He told me a few minutes ago that he won't speak to me if I continue with my plan. Well, it sounds like the boy finally has a spine. Mom, that's no way to talk about your grandson. I disagree. He has been disappointing us these past months. It's good to see he has some courage now. So, Brad moved out. Do you know where he went? No, Mom. I haven't heard from him, and the kids haven't either. Sarah just spoke to him, though. Oh? What did he tell Sarah? Nothing good. He told her he was done with all of us, even you and Dad. Well, that's not good. It's just temporary, Mom. I doubt that, Vicky. Has Brad ever been unsure or said something he didn't mean? No, never. Well then, you know how this will end. Did you check your bank accounts? The kids' education fund? No. Why? Vicky's mother laughed. Your father and I have a bet. What bet? I bet your father that Brad would take all the money from the accounts, including the kids' education fund, before he left. Your father doesn't think Brad would be so hasty. Maybe you should check? Vicky hung up without saying goodbye. She was shocked to find the desktop computer, her only computer at home, was resetting and installing a fresh copy of Windows. The installation process still had at least another hour to go. Vicky screamed. Brad looked at the clock. It was 3:30 a.m. He had been sitting alone at the kitchen table for almost 6 hours, going over the previous evening in his mind. He thought about every word Vicky had said, every expression on her face. She had told him something terrible. He couldn't understand what she had done or what she planned to do that weekend. He was not only angry with her actions and what she was planning, but also angry that his kids and her family were supporting her. He was deeply upset and disappointed that he was not yet drunk, despite drinking more than half a bottle of scotch. Somewhere in his mind, he had made a decision to sell his company. He wasn't sure when, but he had emailed a potential buyer in Japan and asked for a meeting in the next week or two. Maybe the scotch was affecting him after all, but it didn't numb the pain or calm his mind. He suddenly realized something that had been nagging at him. Not once during her announcement had Vicky said she loved him. Not once. They had always said they loved each other every day for 20 years. But not yesterday. Not once. What did that mean? Even with his mind clouded by alcohol, he felt he should understand what it meant. Was she telling him she had enough of him and wanted someone new? Someone she loved already? She didn't say that, but didn't her silence say it all? Her cold attitude showed him where he stood with her. Or didn't stand. And their 2 kids, how could they support Vicky? Didn't they see what she was doing to him? How could they have betrayed him too? Brad was heartbroken. They had sided with Vicky, keeping secrets from him for months. They didn't care that their mother cheated on him. Mark told him to lighten up. Easy to say when you're not the one being left. And Jennifer said her mother deserved to be happy. So foolish, so shallow, so heartless. Brad saw no point in thinking it over anymore. They chose Vicky, not him. No excuse would change that fact. They didn't care about him at all. He was alone now, completely alone. No wife, no kids, no family, nothing. The life he knew and loved was over. Gone. His new life started now. He had to make something of it. There was no going back because there was nothing to go back to. What was gone. Brad wasn't one to show his feelings. He was comfortable with who he was. Vicky saw everyone as friends, but not Brad. Being called a friend meant a lot to him. He had one true friend, Greg Moore. They had grown up together, but then Greg got lupus and died within a year. Brad never got over it. He saw everyone else as acquaintances. Some people mattered more than others, but none were friends like Greg. The only people he truly loved were Vicky, Mark, and Jennifer. He gave them everything. Clearly, that hadn't been enough. Why? What was so important to Vicky that she would turn her back on him? Was his love not enough? Was he too boring? Did she no longer need him in her life? Was she in love with someone else? Were she and the kids too good for him now? Was he just a paycheck to them? Had he ever been more than that? She didn't say, other than she wanted the affair for herself. She didn't offer him a good reason, just some me time, like she was going for a pedicure or something. How dare she? Brad rarely cursed. He found it very offensive, but now it felt right. Vicky was a fool to think he would accept her betrayal. An even greater fool to think he would forget or forgive. That just wasn't who he was. He meant what he told her. She had taken everything from him. He would never forget or forgive that. Not her, not Mark, not Jennifer. He looked down at his hands and noticed they were shaking. A tear rolled down his cheek, and he angrily wiped it away. He would not cry. He would not feel sorry for himself. He would mourn the loss of his family, or what he thought was his family. But he would not let the sadness overwhelm him. No, they would not control him. No one would control him. He knew Vicky. He knew her much better than she knew him. She believed she could do this to him and get away with it. She thought she could face a bit of short punishment, and things would go back to normal. She wanted to control him. But she was wrong. Just because he never stayed angry before didn't mean he wouldn't this time. Whether drunk, sober, or in between, his anger wouldn't fade this time. You cheating liar. If he wasn't good enough for her, then so be it. Tough luck for her. His life was his own, and she didn't own him. No, they could throw him away. But he didn't have to stay down. He could get up, dust himself off, and just walk away. If they said he didn't matter, well, they didn't matter to him either. Not anymore. He would simply cut them out of his life. Maybe it wouldn't be easy, but it could be done. After all, he was a multimillionaire. Thanks for meeting me, Brad. I didn't think you would, his mother-in-law Irene said as she joined him for lunch that Thursday. I'm still trying to figure out why I agreed when you called me, Irene. I don't know what to think of all this. Irene reached across the table and squeezed Brad's hand. Brad, you're the son Bert and I never had. I know you think we supported Vicky in her terrible actions, but we didn't. Bert and I are totally against what she did and what she plans to do. Please believe that. Brad didn't doubt Irene. She never sugarcoated or shifted blame. She was one of the most honest and practical people he knew. Irene gave him a small, sad smile. First, we thought we could talk her out of this awful behavior, Brad. We hoped she would calm down and see how foolish she had been. If that failed, we hoped she would realize what she was doing to you and change her mind before it was too late. We didn't want to see you hurt if we could prevent it. Brad stayed silent for a few minutes. Irene, I can almost understand why a partner in a long marriage like mine might get curious or restless. I can almost understand some minor exploring even, but only minor. We all need our egos boosted now and then. Irene said nothing, just held his gaze. That said, Vicky has always known my feelings on loyalty. There's never been any wiggle room. She always held me to the same standard. Cheating in any form was unacceptable to both of us. We've maintained that for 20 years. Then about 4 months ago, Vicky changed the rules. No hints, no talks with me. She just decided she could do as she pleased and let the consequences be damned. I don't understand why. What made her have this affair? I wish I had an answer for you, Brad. We've come to the same conclusion you have. She's doing it because she can, and she thinks you'll eventually forgive her. Brad's face twisted in anger. That won't happen, Irene. Not after... The kids? Yeah, why involve them? She could have hidden it from them. They aren't even here to find out. She intentionally brought them into it from the start. Why would they go along with it and hide it from me? Irene sighed. There's no clear answer for that, Brad. Vicky has complicated their involvement a lot. They say they see nothing wrong with what Vicky is doing. They both told Bert and me that they believe it won't harm your marriage. That seems to be how young people think today. Brad glared at Irene. You talked to them? Yes, Bert and I have spoken to Mark and Jennifer many times, but it hasn't made a difference. She sighed again. You also need to know that Mark and Jennifer have met Vicky's choice, at least twice, maybe more. They seem to like and approve of him. You've got to be kidding me. Don't blame me, Brad. I just found out last night. How? Vicky and Jennifer were at our house for dinner. Vicky wanted her friend to join them, but we refused. Bert and I don't support what she is doing to you. Do you know who this friend is? We do. You don't? No. Vicky refused to tell me. His name is Nathan Trumbull. The name sounded familiar to Brad, but he couldn't put a face to it. I don't know him. Vicky said it was someone I knew. Well, you have met him a few times at our house. He works for Bert. He's come to several parties. I know you spoke to him on at least 3 occasions. He must not have left much of an impression. I wouldn't recognize him if he sat next to you. Well, he's one of Bert's top employees, probably the top one. I can tell you that Bert had a talk with him. How did that go? Not well for you, unfortunately. Nathan is very charming and smooth. Nathan politely informed Bert that even though he was sorry that his relationship with Vicky was causing problems in our lives, deciding to be with Vicky was an adult choice they both made, and it had nothing to do with his work performance. Bert was shocked, but couldn't say or do anything. Nathan was hired before the company added a clause about moral behavior in the contract, so Bert couldn't legally hold Nathan responsible for his actions. Bert couldn't fire Nathan for being with Vicky without risking a lawsuit for wrongful termination. That still sounds like career suicide. Maybe it is. Maybe it isn't. Honestly, Nathan has Bert in a tough spot. Bert needs Nathan at work. I don't know what Nathan's plans are for Vicky, but Vicky told me last night that she doesn't want to be with Nathan for long. She said Nathan could never replace you in her life. That sounds like nonsense. Bert and I think so too. Nathan acts like he's better than everyone else, but he hides it well. He's confident and good at talking. Is he married? No, and I've heard he's never been married. Are you going to investigate him? No, it'd be a waste of time and money. Irene was surprised. You don't really plan to accept... No. Irene's eyes widened, then she started laughing. You have a plan, don't you? She asked. Brad didn't answer. His eyes turned serious, and Irene stopped laughing. Bradley Duncan, I've known you for 22 years, and I've never given you a reason to doubt me or my feelings for you. I promise you now that anything you say to me, anything you've already told me, is just between us. I won't even tell Bert without your permission. You haven't lost me, Brad. Bert and I are on your side. Share with me what you want, but know it's just between us. Brad took a moment to calm down. Okay, Irene. I believe you. Thank you. It's been a hard week. She squeezed his hand again. We love you, Brad. Bert and I. You are our family and always will be. No matter what happens, you are part of us. Brad nodded. All right. No, I'm not going to investigate Nathan. I'm not going after him at all. I can't really blame him that much. He's just taking what Vicky offered. She could have told him no, and there would be no problem. How much can I blame him? 30%? 40? 50? I have no plans to divorce Vicky if that's what you're thinking. But I won't stay with her or have anything more to do with her. She ended us. But I see no point in wasting time, energy, or money on a divorce that could take years if she fights it. What will you do then? Brad smiled. The Aussies call it a walkabout. I've decided to go see the world. I don't need to be divorced to do that. Maybe there's something out there that will make sense to me. Nothing around here does anymore. Irene chuckled. Vicky won't see that coming. Probably not. I know how Vicky thinks. Right now, she believes she's got everything under control, ready for any situation. She's wrong. She doesn't have anything over me anymore. I bet she never thought I'd just walk away and erase her and the kids from my life. That's what I'm going to do, Irene. They kicked me out, so I'll remove them from my life. Can you really do that, Brad? Emotionally, I mean? Yes, I believe so. For a good long while, at least. I wasn't so sure earlier this week and almost went back to the house. Why didn't you, if you don't mind my asking? It was her smug attitude when she told me about her cheating. That attitude really angered me. I will remember that feeling. I'll also remember my kids don't care attitude. There's nothing for me to go back to, Irene. That's what I realized and why I didn't go back. They might think it's no big deal, but they're wrong. I won't forget or forgive any of it. God, what a mess, Brad. Yes, it is. Will you be okay financially? Traveling can be very expensive. Bert and I are here if you need help. Thank you. I'll be fine. I took all the money from our accounts except Vicky's personal account and her investments. Everything I took is now overseas. I'll be okay. Thanks, though. Did you leave the kids their education fund? No. Let them pay their own way now. Same for their cars. They pay or lose them. Irene laughed. Bert won't be happy he lost that bet with me. You bet on this. Yes! He didn't think you'd go that far. He also believes you'll kick Vicky out while she's in Aruba. You bet on this? You betcha. Good for you for cleaning out the accounts, even if half of that education fund was Vicky's. Have you at least told the kids what you did? No, I haven't spoken to them since Saturday night. I blocked their numbers. Vicky can pay for their school and cars. She can give them allowances. I'm done with all of them. I see. It will be a wake-up call for them. Did you know Jennifer has been home all week? No. You mentioned before that Jennifer was with Vicky last night, but I didn't catch it. Yeah, well, she came back on Sunday morning and argued with Vicky. They've been fighting all week. Jennifer has been looking for you. She wants to talk but can't find you anywhere. Where have you been? At Mom and Dad's old house. I parked one of our company trucks in the driveway to hide. Irene chuckled. So Jennifer has been trying to stop Vicky from leaving on Saturday morning? Irene shrugged and frowned. Honestly, I don't know. Sometimes, yes. Other times, no. Then they fight. I think the problem is that Vicky has always convinced the kids to see things her way. Jennifer regrets not telling you sooner, but she doesn't seem to mind Vicky being with Nathan. Like I said, your kids like him. They're okay with it. Well, isn't that just great? Maybe it's a millennial thing, but your kids don't see affairs as bad for the family, Brad. It's silly, but that's how they feel. And Mark? As far as I know, he hasn't spoken to Vicky all week. He told her on Saturday he'd be done with her if she didn't stop seeing Nathan. But Jennifer mentioned at dinner last night that Mark has talked to Nathan in a friendly way more than once this week after Vicky sent him a new phone. It seems Mark is more upset that you're upset than anything else. Sorry. It's complicated, and I might not be explaining it well. Brad shook his head as Irene went on. Vicky and Jennifer behaved well at dinner last night. Vicky was excited about her trip, and Jennifer seemed, I don't know, trying not to be excited, maybe? I know they both got calls from Nathan right after dinner, and neither call was tense. They were quite cheerful, to be honest. I just don't get it. Vicky wanted to tell us about the hotel in Aruba, but Bert and I didn't engage. They eventually got the hint and left without saying more. I wish things were different, Brad. I wish so, too. What are Aaron and Grace going to do about the company? Everyone knows you run it. Will they take over? No, they're not interested in working full-time again. They don't need the money. I have someone in mind to buy it from them. Hopefully it will be done by next month. Really? That's shocking to hear. Yeah, I don't feel like running it for them anymore. I get it, Brad. So, this trip you're planning, when does it start? Brad smiled sadly. I'm leaving for the airport from here. I'll be in Tokyo before Vicky flies to Aruba on Saturday morning. From Tokyo? I'm not sure yet. I'll be gone for a long time, maybe a couple of years. I have a list of places I want to visit. I've told my folks. We plan to meet up at some point somewhere. My God. Years? Promise me something, Brad. What? Keep in touch with Bert and me, just between us. Once a week at least. Bert and I will come meet you somewhere on your travels. That's a promise. Maybe with Aaron and Grace if they can come. You are not leaving our lives, Brad. Vicky and the kids won't know? No, absolutely not, unless you say it's okay to tell them. All right then, I have your email addresses. I'll write to you wherever I end up. Share what you want with Bert. What about Sarah? Brad had to think about that. Not right away, Irene. She knew, and I have mixed feelings about Sarah. Okay, Brad. Please don't be too hard on Sarah. She's really upset over this. What are your thoughts on divorce, Brad? You said you won't do it, but what are you thinking? Do you expect Vicky to divorce you for leaving, or do you think she might wait for you? Brad shrugged. I don't care either way, Irene. She can divorce me, but the only things she can claim are her own money and the house. I don't care about either. She can keep the house. My lawyer has power of attorney to sign if she decides to sell it. He will contact her after she comes back. She might get some money from me through the court, but she will never see it. She might wait for me, but she'll be wasting her time. I'm not coming back to her. You need to understand that, Irene. I won't come back to her. What about the kids then? Graduations? Marriage? Grandchildren? No, this Nathan guy can fill that role for them. Or someone else she finds. That's pretty extreme, Brad. Maybe, maybe not. I can't see things clearly right now. I'm not sure I ever will. It's hard to learn your wife and kids don't care about you. Maybe they need to feel the same from me. They might learn something from it. Irene was sad. She really cared about her son-in-law. Do you know anyone where you're going? No, not a single soul once I leave Tokyo. I need that, a fresh start, or a reboot. Maybe I just need to be around people who know nothing about me. I need to find out if there's something wrong with me that caused all this. I don't know what I need. Not really. Vicky wants something new and different, and now I do too. I want a fresh start, said Brad. Irene had tears on her face. You don't plan to tell them what you're doing? No, not for now, at least. I can't make myself believe they will care personally. And besides, let them feel some of my pain. They can suffer as I have. Knowing that Mark and Jen like Vicky's choice for my replacement makes me think none of them care that I'm leaving. Sorry, my language has gotten worse this week. That's okay, Brad. You can speak however you need to. This makes me so sad. It's all so foolish and hurtful. None of it makes any sense. No, it doesn't. You can give Vicky a message for me next time you see her. Will you do that? Irene gave him a sad smile. Of course I will. What's the message? Brad reached across the table and took Irene's hand. He opened it and put his wedding ring in her palm. Just that, Irene. Give her that and tell her. Nothing more to say. Jennifer had taken her mom to the airport. After wishing her a safe trip, Jennifer started driving back to school. She called Mark's new phone. He answered with a sleepy, "Yeah? Hey, wake up! I just dropped Mom off at the airport and I'm on my way back to school. Do you have any plans for today?" Huh? Yeah, Cancel your plans, Mark, and don't make any plans that need money. Dad took all the money from the bank accounts and left. I can't find out where he went. I think Grandma Irene knows where he is because she saw him this past week. I don't know what I did wrong, but she's barely speaking to me. Grandma gave Mom Dad's wedding ring yesterday, saying that said everything Dad wanted to say to any of us. She won't talk to Mom at all now. I don't think she is as angry as Gram, but she is definitely upset with us. All of us. So is Grandpa. He told Mom and me to get out of his house and stay out. Huh? What? Wake up! We're broke, Mark. Dad took all of the money our family had with him. He only left Mom her own money. Broke? We're broke? Like a broken vase. I asked Mom if she would pay for our school, but she didn't give me a clear answer. I know she makes good money, but she has to pay all the bills now. Dad always did that. She told me the property taxes on the house are over $90,000, and the bill is due next month. That money was supposed to be in the bank, but Dad took it with him. I don't know how much Mom has saved from her job, but we're all in trouble. Wow, we're going to have to take out school loans. Maybe, probably. We might lose our cars, too. What? Are you serious? I thought they were paid for. Nope, they are not. And the loans for each car are in your name and my name. Remember all those papers we signed at the dealership? Dad did it to build good credit for us, even though he was giving us the money to make the car payments. But he won't do that anymore, and I doubt he will send us any more spending money. I only have about $1,500 in the bank. How about you? God, maybe $400? That's all? Yeah. What about Grandma Irene and Grandpa Bert? Will they help us? Mom said she would talk to them when she comes home. She doesn't want to think about money while she's on this vacation, and Grandma and Grandpa were too angry to talk to before Mom left for Aruba. It looks bad, Mark. You know? This is so messed up. Yes, it is. Okay. Well, still no idea where Dad is? No, but Mom said he cleaned out the safety deposit box at the bank, too. That means he has his passport. I don't know why I think so, but I think he left the country for a while. What? Like overseas? Why would he do that? Maybe, do you think he's going to Aruba to confront Nathan? Maybe? I have no idea, Mark. I just know he can't be found anywhere at home. Wow. Did you tell Mom that? I mean, she should know, right? Oh, like we told Dad she was cheating on him? Hey, not the same thing at all. Dad could get angry. Big difference. Do you really think Dad would do that? Get angry? I don't know. I mean, he's really upset, right? He's rich. What else would an upset rich guy do? Jesus, what would it cost to hire some bad guys in Aruba to hurt Nathan? A couple of $100? Seriously? Mafias? You know what I mean. Bad guys, whatever. They could make it look like a robbery or something. Shit, you see it on TV all the time. Are you talking about the news? Whatever. TV. You need to tell Mom. I can't tell Mom anything, dummy. I'm driving and she's getting on her plane right now. You tell her. Okay, sure. I'll send her a text. Maybe Nathan can hire a bodyguard there or something. Well, maybe they'll just stay in their hotel room or the beach in public. God, this is so messed up. Mark. It's Mark, Mom. Just talking to Jen, and we think Dad might be planning to be in Aruba while you guys are there. We think he's going there to confront Nathan. Maybe you too. Not what you want to hear, I know, but you two need to be careful. Real careful. If Dad is there, it's most likely he will hire someone to go after you guys. Jen and I are worried. Very worried. Be careful. Vicky didn't see the text until that evening. She hadn't even turned on her phone until after she and Nathan had arrived in their hotel room and had spent some time together. It was enjoyable to Vicky, at least, given that it was their first time being so close. Afterward, they showered and changed for the beach. Vicky loved the beach. There were great-looking guys everywhere. Very attractive women, too. Vicky didn't mind Nathan looking at other women, as long as he didn't complain when she looked at other men. In fact, it seemed to make both of them feel more interested in each other. She wondered why she and Brad had never taken a trip to a place like this. It would have been so romantic. After dinner, back in their room getting ready to go dancing, Vicky saw the text. She frowned, thinking about how serious Mark might be. Brad? Violent? Nathan noticed her face and asked what was wrong. She showed him the text, and Nathan turned pale. Nathan hated violence in any form. He didn't even like violent movies or books. The text made them cancel their plans to go out. They decided to stay in bed instead. For Nathan, being together was close enough to any excitement he wanted. Brad took a deep breath, amazed at how different Tokyo smelled compared to home. The city was very noisy, too. He had arrived 3 days earlier, met with his potential buyer, and amazingly agreed to sell his company in just a few hours. Brad wasn't looking to make a huge profit, just some. More than anything, he wanted a quick sale, with the deal taking place in a country that had no agreements with the United States. The profit from the sale would go into his Caribbean bank account. Hidoke Masashima got the point right away. No need for many details from Brad. Both sides were happy with the contract, and now they were just waiting for the paperwork to go through. The contract would be sent to his parents for their signatures, sent back, and Brad would get his money. His accountant in the U.S. would handle the taxes. Brad figured he had another week or two in Tokyo before moving on. His next stop would either be Hong Kong or Taipei, and he couldn't decide which to visit first. He would probably decide by flipping a coin. Brad was going to miss his company. He had spent nearly 20 years building it. Would he miss it more than his ex-family? He thought he might. The company, after all, had never let him down. That night, he returned to his hotel and found an email from Irene. He laughed as he read it. "My always darling Brad, the funniest thing happened. I thought not to tell you, but this is just too funny. Apparently Mark and Jennifer got it into their heads that you went to Aruba to do something to Nathan and your very silly wife. Vicky sent me several texts and called twice, angrily asking where you are. She thinks I know where you are. I haven't told her or anyone except Bert. She and her new boyfriend think you're hiding behind every tree and bush in Aruba. You are ruining their perfect vacation. Vicky says Nathan is so worried you'll pop out of the sand that he has been having some stress-related issues. Oh my. I hope you find this as funny as Bert and I do. I tried to take Vicky's calls seriously, but I laughed so hard. I did tell her I hoped you were in Aruba, though. Bert reminded Nathan that his company has a great dental plan if he needs it. I can't believe Bert said that with such a straight face. Anyway, update us. We miss you very much. After hearing from Vicky, we decided we prefer having you in our lives rather than her. I just don't know her anymore. How awful is that? I told everything to Grace and Aaron. Aaron thought it was hilarious. Grace had a big laugh, too. I miss them. We're spending time with them this weekend. Sarah heard most of it, so she knows what's going on. Please reconsider your relationship with her, Brad. She's really hurt by what happened to you. I promise you can trust Sarah. Please let us know what you decide. Maybe we can arrange a call on Skype or Zoom. I miss seeing your face and hearing your voice. Let us know when it's good for you. Never forget you are our son. We love you very much. Irene. There was a 14-hour time difference between Irene and Tokyo, with Tokyo being a day ahead. Brad thought about it and then sent an email back to Irene, setting up a call for their next Saturday evening. He invited Sarah to join if she was free. Brad walked around Tokyo and wished his family was with him. Vicky was right in one way. He wasn't used to being alone. For over 20 years he had Vicky and his family. Before that he had his parents. He also had his business, and while his co-workers were just acquaintances, they were there. They respected him and trusted him to lead the company well. But now, Brad was alone in an amazing city with no one to share it with. He visited Tokyo's Imperial Palace and thought Mark would have loved it. He snapped a picture. And Tokyo Tower? Brad could almost hear Vicky saying how it was like seeing a little piece of Paris. It could have been their vacation if Vicky... No, Brad thought. I won't go down that road. She made her choice, and it wasn't him. The sake bar in the hotel helped take Brad's mind off his sad thoughts. A few businessmen, already quite drunk from celebrating a big sale, invited Brad to join them. They were several millions richer and would be flying home to their families soon. Everything was right in their world. For a few hours, Brad drank, chatted, and remembered what it was like to be happy with his family. Evan Ralston was a man Brad wouldn't forget easily. They talked far into the night. Ex-Mrs. Ralston the first. Evan chuckled. That marriage was built on teenage love. If we could build a house with that kind of love, it would be rock solid. He paused, sipping sake. Brad pushed a glass of water closer to Evan, knowing he'd have a bad hangover in the morning. But no marriage lasts on love alone. We didn't make it 2 years. But those 2 years were something else. Ex-Mrs. Ralston II, I thought she was the one. So smart, really smart. She could see through all my lies. You know, I don't think I ever won a fight with her. Can any husband win a fight with their wife? Probably not. Maybe some guy did once and got into the Guinness World Records or something. She was too smart, though. Became a top lawyer really fast. Before we knew it, we barely saw each other. She was always working on big money cases. I was also working extra hours as a COO. We lasted 5 years before splitting. I still see her sometimes. She's with a stay-at-home guy now. Works for her. Ex-Mrs. Ralston III was the big mistake. After the first marriage, I knew you needed love. After the second, I knew you needed to put in effort, like a garden that needs care. Anyway, I gave that marriage everything, and she took everything from me. Evan tried to drink water and started laughing, then laughed harder. It took a minute for him to calm down. She just married me for money. She tricked me. Looking back, I missed one small detail then. Me. I thought I was ready for marriage and grabbed the first one who showed interest, and she played me. But Judy, she's my everything now. We've been married 15 years, and I've loved every minute. If it wasn't for the other 3, I'd never have found her. So, what were we talking about? They both laughed hard. Evan found it funny because he was too drunk. For Brad, it was a moment of pure craziness that wiped his worries away. The advice from Evan was funny, but not thinking about his past made Brad laugh with pure joy. His laugh was a release of a lot of pain and hurt. Vicky took a taxi home from the airport. Nathan had offered to drive her, but she refused, thinking Brad might, just might, be at the house waiting for her return. She knew it was a long shot, but at least he hadn't been in Aruba. Not that she knew of, at least. Just the thought of him being there had ruined her time with Nathan. Good Lord, Nathan had no spine at all. Nathan was good in bed when he could focus, though, but that didn't happen often during their 2 weeks together. The closer they got to leaving, the more nervous Nathan became. What a silly scaredy cat he was. Her parents' treatment of Vicky and Nathan during her calls home was awful. They could have been a bit understanding. But no, they laughed at her concerns. They actually laughed and said they hoped Brad was in Aruba. It made Vicky so angry to be treated so poorly by her parents. Still, she would give Aruba, the hotel, and beaches a solid gold star. It was more than she imagined, even with the fear of Brad showing up. Nathan and their adventure. Maybe a tin star. Lead. Maybe. Nathan was good at pleasing a woman, but he wasn't himself while imagining Brad watching over his shoulder. And forget about romance. Almost all of their plans outside their room or the public beach got canceled because Nathan was afraid. Really? Why would you want a married woman if you were so scared of her husband? In any case, Vicky was glad she followed her plan. It was never about Nathan anyway. Now, she needed to fix things. It was time to make it right. Hopefully, she could turn things around and get back to her happy marriage and the man she loved with all her heart. One thing was certain, though. Brad would have to work to get his wedding ring back. Brad giving the ring to Vicky's mom before Vicky left for Aruba was uncalled for. It was just mean. Vicky paid the cab driver after he pulled her suitcases out. Then she stood at the curb looking at her house. Her big, beautiful house. 2 weeks' worth of mail stacked up by the front door. Brad wasn't there and hadn't been. "Mom, you need to stay away from Nathan," Jen pleaded again. "Why? It's just some harmless fun." Vicky looked at Jennifer, wondering why she was bringing this up again. For 2 weeks, all Jennifer said was to stay away from Nathan. "If you want Dad back, you can't be with him. I'll break it off when your dad comes home. What does it matter if I enjoy time with Nathan while your dad is away?" "Mark, talk some sense into Mom!" Jen shouted, throwing her hands up in frustration. "What sense? Dad's not here. Why does it matter, Jen? Are you clueless?" Jennifer shouted. "Mom, Dad is going to know you're still seeing Nathan and he will never come home. Or do you not want him to come home?" "Jen, it's Nathan. He's a good guy and is just keeping Mom company. Why does it matter? Dad will come back if Mom gets rid of Nathan. Right, Mom?" Mark replied with a sigh as if this was an easy fix Brad would just accept. "I'm not saying Nathan's a bad person. I'm just saying he's not Dad. And as long as Nathan's here, Dad isn't coming back." Jen rubbed her temples, feeling like she was losing her mind. Vicky looked at her kids. Why didn't Jen understand? Nathan was here. Brad was not. Vicky loved Brad deeply, but he left and no one knew where he went. He wasn't here to keep her company. There would be no Nathan if Brad hadn't left. She smiled at the thought. Nathan may not be as strong, but he could make her happy when he was trying. Besides, Brad had abandoned them. Vicky stayed behind, ready to fight for their marriage. Where was Brad? Sulking somewhere? He wasn't even trying to fix their marriage. Not a single word from him since he left. Not one word. "Mom, are you listening?" Vicky snapped out of her thoughts, realizing Jen was trying to get her attention. "Yes, Jen? You weren't even listening. You never do." "What is that supposed to mean?" Vicky asked, getting angry. "You did not listen to Dad," Jen shouted, emphasizing each word. "What was there to listen to? Him sulking and throwing a fit? Dad told you he wouldn't accept this situation. You forced it on him anyway. You didn't listen then, and you're still not listening." "Okay, fine. What am I supposed to hear?" "Ugh, this is like the worst comedy act ever," Jen said, falling onto the couch in defeat. "What is the definition of madness again?" Dad told her, I told her. "Even Grandma Irene and Grandpa Bert." Nothing is sinking in. Vicky and Mark went back to talking about the next weekend and inviting Nathan. Jen tried hard not to cry. She still hoped that maybe Mom and Dad could fix things, but it seemed less likely with each passing moment. Jen wanted her father back.
What's up, story lovers? This is the Story Guy, and if you're hungry for crazy tales and mind-blowing narratives, you've come to the right place. Don't forget to smash that subscribe button so you don't miss out on our weekly dose of crazy cheating stories, fun fiction and gut-ripping comedy from around the world. But that's not all. We also create our own original stories, and trust me, you won't find these anywhere else. Want even more spine-tingling reads? Head down to the description and grab our exclusive story collections. Thanks for watching, and I'll catch you in the next video.